Hey everybody, this is Perch. Why do the comic companies do what they do? No, I mean, in many cases, they're just trying to put out stories and kind of get through the day so they can get to Friday and be done. That's why they do what they do. There's a lot of debate. I don't listen to a lot of YouTube. Again, where's the time? But or yesterday, I should say, I went through and I was just listening to shows. I listened to about 2 minutes of a ton of different shows, ton of different people, and it's the usual. There's this attempt to assign meaning to things that I don't think have any meaning. I may be wrong, but I mean it's like, wow, that you have to believe that a bunch of people at Marvel or DC or whatever are sitting around a table like trying to plot how to inject more social justice into the comics. Like they're like, how do we do it? How do we do it? But as we've seen from the documentaries, like Dan Slott doesn't even show up to work on time, and he's busy messing around on Twitter to attend a meeting. And it's like most people I know that I talk to are just desperate to get to the weekend. What's weird about that is like freelance creators, technically they don't have a weekend. I mean, they do the job and they could have a 4-day weekend or a 1-day weekend or 0 weekend or, work really hard for a day. I'm still convinced at times that like Bendis works really hard for 1 day and then he's like 6-day weekend. That's what goes on. But it's weird. I talked to a lot of creators who talk about, I guess just trying to get to Saturday, just trying to get to Friday so I can wrap it up for the week. And they still work this schedule. Anyway, I don't know why it's funny to me, but it is. Anyway, when you see mistakes getting made, it's like, all right, is this another cornerstone in the social justice plot, or is it somebody who really just wants to stop working so they could get back to watching Julia on HBO Max? You just wonder. Anyway, here's a question about social justice as a response to shifting demographics. So it says, hello, Perch. I got caught up listening to your channel while trying to learn about comics marketing and the industry. I'm an illustrator selling my Greek mythology comedy graphic novel. After a dozen or so episodes, I've just gotten hooked on your behind-the-scenes approach to the comic industry. Cool, thank you. I've noticed a lot of consternation over a relatively recent and sizable shift in the comics industry, primarily toward themes of social justice that are preeminating what was once largely, though not entirely, an entertainment medium. Do you think that this is an acknowledgement on the part of major comic publishers, mostly the big two, that they have failed to add new readers for the last several decades? Interesting, okay. They have tended to target the collector demographic, which, and I may be speaking with good evidentiary backing here, seems to be mostly Gen X, favoring entertainment over social justice, and the age category of around 40 to 55. That is 100% correct. Are Marvel and DC acknowledging a grim reality of the oncoming attrition of their primary audience and desperately working to take a slice of a new audience by aping the mythology of the current indie and webtoon slice of life social justice approach? Yes, but let's finish your mail. The other thing is they're hiring creators from who grew up on that. You're not hiring creators who grew up on Claremont. There's a decent amount of. I was at a BarCon, I guess. This is like 2 years ago, and there are a handful of writers, editors, and then somebody says like, "Can I admit something? Can I admit something? I've never read anything by Chris Claremont." And then the 2 other people like, "Oh my God, neither have I. Thank you." Everybody else, it's like, and then they started bitching about the pressure of like, you have to read Chris Claremont, you have to read Alan Moore, you have to like Jack Kirby. It's like, what if I don't like any of those things? It's like, I don't know. You don't have to, I guess, but it's going to show up in the work, I think. Anyway, sorry, the mail continues. And then as a follow-up, if the above is accurate, and the current style of indie comics, a slice of life, etc., is too redundant to last long, as you mentioned in one of your videos, most of them are basically the same, where will this leave Marvel and DC when the social justice trend has run its course and the Gen X collectors have stopped buying? This was a lot. I get really long mails. This actually was a medium-sized mail. Anyway, I'd be interested in your thoughts on the subject. If you've covered this in essence before, I apologize for the repeat. I've listened to a lot of your stuff, but not the full unravel the whole library. Well, there's like 3,000 videos, so it'll take a while. So what you write is correct, and I do think that's a lot what's going on. And I think it's this combo of hey, the new audience seems to be on webtoons, quick do webtoon type material. That's why you see some of this kind of silly, almost nonsense kind of stories. It's why they're pushing things like Jeff the Shark, and other comics that don't work. I mean, they're like, they get Twitter attention and they get kind of that web comic attention, but the entire business model and the format and everything else is different. If web comics are coming out kind of when the creator decides to put them out and they're largely free, and you browse them online or on your phone while you're waiting for, who knows, your Starbucks order to come in, that's a very different product than a printed comic that you're holding in your hands. And you can say, hey, well, then put that stuff over on Marvel Unlimited. You can do that, but Marvel itself as a brand has meaning. You can't just suddenly change what you are and expect everybody to follow along. Marvel means kind of escapist superhero entertainment. If you started doing Marvel is going to be all about romance comics, you're going to lose a bunch of your audience. A bunch of people who like romance comics are not even going to come into it because they're going to see that Marvel logo and be like, I don't like superheroes. You can try and rebrand as much as you want, but it's incredibly hard. Arby's could, for example, start serving edible good food, but people are going to see that logo and they're going to be like, nope, I know what that is. You can't fool me. How funny is it, by the way, in 2022, one of the most compelling feuds in all of comics is Arby's and myself. It's no longer Professor X Magneto. No, they're friends now. They're friends. Justice League Darkseid. Well, Darkseid's been overused and now he's like mind controlled or something. No, the real feud in comics right now is Perch and Arby's. That's what it is. Anyway, but so that you're trying to get this new audience, but it's going to be hard to do. The bigger question that comes up is, why do comic companies think they need to veer towards slice of life web type comics in order to, and social justice type themes? Why do they feel like they need to veer to that? Why do they think that the new audience, some prospective new audience, won't come in for superhero escapist entertainment? Because I know lots of people like to bitch about the MCU, but the MCU by and large is that. It's kind of escapist, lightweight superhero entertainment. Yes, every now and then they're like, oh my God, somebody mentioned they're gay, and then YouTube loses its collective mind. All the gays are coming, but by and large, like you look at Doctor Strange, and I didn't love the movie. I didn't particularly like Moon Knight, but I like various things that Marvel has done, the MCU has done. It's pretty benign escapist superhero entertainment in many ways, and it's going to kill people to hear it. The MCU is a lot closer to what comics were in the 80s and the 90s than what comics are today. The MCU is actually a lot closer to those things because it's by and large just doing its thing. It's superheroes and they show up and you don't have to think too hard about it, and you get some action sequences and some funny banter and off you go. I was reading the that X-Men 91, and you've got Gambit trying to kiss Jean Grey and then failing, and then Cyclops like, that's what you get, and there was some funny banter in there. It was funny because if you adapted that into a movie, just the X-Men from 1991, if you just made a movie based off that, it would feel right at home in the MCU completely. It's but anyway, that's where the movies have gone. The movies are wildly popular with new audiences. Turns out kids, new audiences like to collect. Pokemon's had a completely second life in terms of card trading and everything else. So all the same elements from the 70s, the 80s, and 90s are still here in the new audience today. It's just the comics, for whatever reason, have gotten their head that the best way to attract them is to do something completely new and unproven and different for them. And that's why I get back to, I think it's a lot the creators who came from that area, who wanted to make comics. They're starting out new, and that's what they're reading. They're reading that kind of stuff. This is the Netflix webtoon generation now making Marvel comics, and it looks like it looks. That's why Donny Cates, I think, is successful at Marvel. He produces stuff that feels closest to 70s and 80s Marvel. If you look at the stuff that's gone really, really popular, Hickman's House of X Powers of 10 felt like a very kind of dense, surprising Claremont type comic in many ways. Not what followed, but that first run had that same kind of Days of Future Past kind of feel to it. Donnie's various runs feel the same. You look at the people, Jed McKay doing his work, his Moon Knight feels very much like those comics. I think that's going to meet the desires, or what the kind of 40 to 55, that Gen X crowd. It's going to fit what they want. And on the other end, that's most likely to attract the new readers to a printed comics they're going to hold in their hands and read. There's no signs that the webtoon type behavior will fit in a printed format, sold that way for that cost. Anyway, it's a mismatch, and it desperately, what the companies need more than anything is they need somebody at the top saying, "Hey, I'm not here to kick everybody's ass, but I'm here to make some money, and so we're going to focus on the activities and things that are going to make us money, and we're going to, we're going to that some of you won't like it here. Some of you are not meant to write in this format. You may be wonderful, beautiful people. There is a indie world for you out there, or maybe you could become a rich webtooner. I don't know, but this is the business we're in. This is what we're going to focus on, and that come along, or you're gonna leave." They need somebody like that who's going to steer the ship in a clear direction. Part of the problem, by the way, with that, and maybe this is an entire topic for another video, but Marvel for many, many years, more than DC, they, in the most vulgar way possible, they enjoy smelling their own farts. Marvel can do no wrong. If you've ever met them at a convention, if you've talked to them, they are very, very confident in their placement at the top. The company exudes ego at various times. Now, sometimes they've chuckled it off as, well, we are the best, so we should have a little swagger. But, in recent years, it's become a lot more sad than swagger. And unfortunately, if you go to Marvel like, "Hey, it's time for a wake-up call," you got your head editor there talking about how he doesn't go to comic stores anymore. You got a lot of your writers writing material that is just nonsensical, doesn't fit the audience at all. Your top-selling comics today are selling 1/10 of the top-selling comics from 30 years ago. So, clearly there's a problem. But, Marvel will tell you, and has said directly to me, no, it's the people who are different. We're fine. We're still, the market's good. We're getting money in other ways, like digital. Like, no, you're not making money in digital. Just stop it. But it's if you are 100% convinced you are the best, the smartest, doing absolutely the right things, if you are convinced you're perfect, then there's no room for self-awareness. There's no room for correction. And in many cases, I think the answer is staring you right in the face. It has nothing to do with politics or social justice or not. It has to do with basic escapist entertainment. And the biggest reason it's staring you in your face is that your parent company is doing that with the movies and making a ton of money. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for the message, and thanks for listening.